Okay, today we're going to talk about measuring angles. So you measure angles in degrees. So many things are measured in different units. You have distance can be measured in meters or feet or inches or millimeters or centimeters. Weight could be measured in pounds or kilograms. Liquid can be measured in gallons or liters or other things. And then you have angles, which are going to be measured in degrees. And the symbol for degrees, let's say something was 36 degrees, I would put 36 and I would put a really small degree sign up here. And yes, it is spelled the same, and actually the symbol is the same as temperature degrees, but in this case we're measuring angles. There are two tools listed or that are displayed on the screen here. This one over here is a 360 degree protractor, and this is a 180 degree protractor. The most common one is going to be this 180 one, which for most angles it works really well. The 360 is less common, but it can measure all angles. Our 180 degree protractor does really well with acute, right, obtuse, and even straight angles. But once you get into that reflex angle, it gets a little tricky. So anyway, going forward, these are our two tools. There are styles of protractors. This is another one. So I want to just kind of show you what the setup looks like. So first of all, this angle, if we look up here in this corner, the name of this angle could be two different things. M, G, L, because remember we're following the angle, and G is our vertex, so that's listed in the center. So it could be MGL, it could also be LGM. So two different names, and then the type of this is an acute angle. And so just to let you know how to use a protractor, a couple of things. So this hole right here is going to be important. That hole needs to be lined up with your vertex. And then there's a guideline here and here, and those two need to be lined up with one of the rays or arms of our angle. So in this case, we've got it lined up with ray GL. So the other one, the other arm or the other ray here in our angle is going to show us what the measurement of this angle is. So this right in this area is going to be really important. So the other tricky thing about 180 degree protractors is that they do have two different numbers listed on each one on top, one on bottom. If you start here, this is going to be 0 degrees, and then if we start counting up 10, 20, 30, 40, we're going to know that that bottom one for this angle is going to be the one we're using. So we are right at 50 degrees. So the angle or the measurement of this angle is 50 degrees. Okay. All right, let's try this one. This is an obtuse angle, and we could name this angle A, and it's really hard to see because of the glare, BC, or I did it backwards, CBA or ABC, depending on which way you go. So to do the measurement of this angle, again, we're going to line our vertex up with the hole of our protractor, and then our guidelines here. And the closer you get it to lined up with that arm of your angle, the more accurate your measurement's going to be. So if we look at this, again, we're going to try to see which set of numbers we need, either the top ones or the bottom ones. So if this is 0, we go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So we're using these top numbers. We're going to come all the way over here, and we have 130. This little hash here is 135, and it's one more than that. So we're going to have 136 degrees. All right, so this is a reflex angle. This one is a little tricky. And I don't have a protractor on here, but I do want to just talk about how you measure these reflex angles, because the really tricky part is that you have a protractor that only equals 180. Actually, let me get a protractor. Hold on. Okay, so I have a protractor right here. So, and this is the protractor that I showed at the beginning. It has a little bit of a different style. It doesn't actually have a hole in it. So what we're going to do to measure this reflex angle, we're actually going to measure this center part in here with our protractor. Now, oh goodness, it won't let me move just the, whoa, hang on. There we go. Okay, so with our protractor, we are going to measure just this center part of it. So we're going to line up the dot with our vertex. Then we're going to line our guidelines up as close as we can with the arm of the angle. There we go. Okay. So, and we are really close to, and I know I think I wrote 30 degrees on here. It's really close. And I usually say when we're measuring angles that if you're 4 or 5 degrees above or below, you're pretty close. Now, if you were doing this as like a profession, you want to be as accurate as possible. But in terms of just learning how to measure, I usually take a couple above or below the actual measurement. So for right here, and again, it depends on how accurately you are lining up your arm to the vertex, or to the arm of the angle to the guideline on your protractor. There we go. So again, we've got 0, 10, 20, 30. So we're going to use these bottom numbers. And it lines up right about there, which is about 28 or 29, or depending on if I was as accurate as possible, it might be close to 30. Let's just go with 30. So let's see if I can get this to line up even better here. And no matter how big or small I make the protractor, it actually, yeah, there we go. See, now we are just about at 30. Anyway, so no matter how big or small we make the protractor, it will measure the same angles, which is kind of another cool thing about protractors. So when we look at this inner angle, we're going to, let's go with 30. Just because that's how it's really close to 30. And so we have 360, which would be a full turn. So to get the measurement of this reflex part of my angle, which is way out here, right? Remember, a reflex angle is really big. It's bigger than 180. So to measure that, we're going to take this 360 number and subtract this part of our angle that's not actually part of our reflex angle. So we're going to subtract that and get 330 degrees. So I know that's really tricky and kind of complicated, but just wanted to let you know how to measure reflex angle. All right, let's try to measure this angle. So we have a protractor. So we're going to line, and I could line it up to this angle, or I could line it, or the arm of this side of the angle, or I could do it to the other one. It does not matter. Okay, so we have our protractor all lined up. So when we look at this, again, we're going to come over here to this side. It's lined up over here. So 0, 10, 20, 30. So we're going to look at our bottom number, and our arm comes right about here, which is going to be 120 degrees. Okay, so that's 120. Let's try another one. Let's bring our protractor over. So let's see, I'm lined it up with the vertex. Now I have to make sure I get this lined up with the arm. It's really tricky to do on an iPad. Okay, so now we have 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. So we're going to use these top numbers this time. So now this is almost 70, but not quite. So it's actually going to be about, I would say this looks like either 68 or 69. And the reason I say that is because 60 is here, 70 is here. Some people will mistakenly say 71 or 72, but it's less than 70. So this is actually going to say, let's say about 69 degrees. The hard thing here is that our line is actually thicker than one of our little hash marks. So 69, let's say 69 degrees. Alrighty, so another one. Here's our protractor. Okay, vertex is lined up. Let's be real careful about getting the 0 lined up. Okay, here we go. So now 0, 10, 20, 30. We're going to use these top numbers now. If we come way over here, it's 150, but a tiny bit more. So maybe 151. And again, our arm of our angle is just a little thick, so it's hard to tell if it's 151 or 152. All right, here we go. Here's an acute angle. Oh dear, I gotta change my tool. Here we go. Here's an acute angle. So again, we're gonna line up our vertex. Get our 0 on the arm. Now, let's see here. We have 0, 10, 20, 30. So we're gonna use the top numbers. And my arm goes right about there. which is right about at the 135 mark. So this angle is going to be 135, 130, or sorry, not 135. Goodness gracious, 35 degrees, not 135. 35 degrees. And the reason we know it's not in the hundreds is because we looked at our numbers, 0, 10, 20, 30. So it's going to be 35. Sorry for that. All right, 2 more. So let's line up our vertex, turn our protractor, line the 0 up with the arm. Okay, so now we have 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. Oh, uh-oh. There we go. We'll move it back. So we're going to use those top numbers. We have 110 is right here, and then our line goes right about there. So it's probably 111 degrees, 111. One thing to add really quickly is that if I take my protractor and I measure from the other ray, notice we had 111. Let's say I take this and measure from the other ray, just for future reference here. Come on. There it goes. So if you notice, I'm measuring from the other ray and I still get 111. So it does not matter which ray you start from. Okay? Just wanted to make that clear because I know that people worry about, did I measure from the right ray? It doesn't matter. It's the same from either one. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye. All right, so just to remember, when you're using a protractor, place the center mark or the vertex they're calling this the center mark. I call it the hole. But anyway, you're gonna place the hole over the vertex, and then your 0 mark or the line guide is gonna go on the ray, one of the rays of your protractor. And then you can measure from there.